Hello and welcome to the third video in my series documenting the creative artifact for my PhD research, the website called Anglesey: A Bridge Through Time. In this third video, we are going to be looking at the 6 themes essays, which are located here behind the Discover navigation. And through Discover you can go to Inspire Me and Plan a Visit, which we've already visited, and then here's where you click to go to the 6 themes essays. Again, we showed you in the last video, you could also access them via the timeline. And so these are the 6 themes essays, and I'd like to document them as they were written and illustrated. These come from the interpretation plan suggested and described by CADU, which is the Welsh Government's heritage body. I describe the process of writing them in more detail in the thesis. Viewers can pause the video at any time here to read the interpretation in full or to visit the website. You can visit the website at your leisure. It's live at this address, but these videos will show you more about what it is I intended. So 3 of these essays, Origins, Romans, and Anglo-Norman Conquest, were originally written by another writer, someone who was subcontracted by me through MentorMon, and he wrote the first draft. I did a lot of editing on them, and I did image acquisition as well. The remaining 3 themes were written by the researcher, with image acquisition by the researcher. Both the timeline and the themes are made to demonstrate a warm, social, person-centered, consumer-focused approach to heritage. Together they serve to present a compelling and complete context for the individual heritage stories contained in the Key Places pages, which we will examine in the next video. So let's look at these 6. Origins, Anglesey's earliest history. Now this goes through how the landmass was actually formed, and the Mesolithic and then the Neolithic humans. These images come, some of them from the National Museum of Wales, but again it was difficult to find. This is actually an image of people constructing the Anglesey heritage site Bryn Celli D, which is at Henge, a Stonehenge, like the famous Stonehenge. And this essay goes through early trading, roundhouse life, and again Philip Steele is the original author of this, although I did quite a bit of editing. I really wanted the tone of voice in the essay to be intellectually accessible to a wide range and to be people-centered. So not about heritage artifacts per se, but more about the people who lived, the stories of the people who lived on Anglesey. That was my guiding process throughout. You can see all these links on the side where you can go to other pages. All the pages on the website that are directly linked to this theme are key, all the key places whose heritage sites are demonstrated or sewn together by the topic and origins are linked to on this page. So that is the Origins theme. And then the next one in our list chronologically is Romans. They came and invaded in AD 60. It was very difficult to get any imagery that we could use that was in the public domain or that was purchased. This one comes from a stock site, so we had to pay a small amount of money for it, but we had very little. This is actually a CADU reenactment photo. Again, this was an essay that was written and subcontracted. So again, I was looking for dramatic, person-centered ways to illustrate the story. This is the famous quote from Tacitus about what it was like when the Romans saw the Druids aligned on the beach of Anglesey, and it is quite dramatic, and so I wanted a dramatic image to illustrate it. Again, it was a very dramatic event in which the Romans are thought to have burned most of Anglesey. So life under occupation, again, I'm trying to make a human-centered narrative here, so a focus on what life was like for people in Anglesey during these times. And if you'd like to read this at your own pace, obviously, feel free to pause the video or to visit the website live. Okay, I'm going to scroll to the top now. That's the end of Romans, and let's go back and look at the next theme. Which is called Surrounded by Saints. This is one that was written originally, an original essay written by the researcher to describe the era of the saints, which began around the year 500 on Anglesey. And I tried to take a consumer-centered approach, and meaning that I tried to put myself in the perspective, in the shoes, in the mind frame of our target demographic, which would be families who live on the Wirral or in northwest England. And these might be people who have visited Wales once or twice and probably in their head are wondering, what's with all the llans? Why do so many of the villages in Wales start with this prefix llan? And I think it's a great way to introduce stories about the saints, because the word llan means parish of the saints. And when we talk about these saints, we don't mean Catholic saints. We mean saints from the church in Wales. These are people who were chosen by their local kinsmen or other people who lived around them. And so this essay is about who are these saints who founded all these villages across Anglesey and across Wales. These are the most famous saints in Anglesey, the Dark and the Light, Cereal and Cubby. And there's a famous legend about them. Again, this is a legend that people who live in North Wales are very familiar with, but people who don't live here, in fact our tourists and our target demographics, might not be familiar with this story at all. So I wanted to use these very interesting and charming folk tales as a tourism resource. So I continue with some stories of the saints, and then I talk about why that Anglesey presents a unique opportunity to be able to walk in their footsteps, in that Anglesey, because it's still in such a natural state, so much of it is beautiful and untouched by industrial history, that you can still see some of the saints' churches and see some of their encampments and experience them much the way the saints themselves did. So that is my theme, called Surrounded by Saints. And again, we'll go back to the main themes page, look at the next one, the Kingdom of Gwynedd, 800 years strong. Now, I was surprised to find out, and at this point I had lived in Wales for 8 years, I was surprised to find out that I live in Wales, Gwynedd was actually an independent country for 800 years. For most of that time it was ruled by someone who considered himself the king of an independent country. It was only in the second half, or the last third of that time, where the leaders called themselves princes in deference to the English crown. For most of that time it was an independent kingdom. So I wanted to engage people with what I thought were very surprising and yet pivotal facts about British history. So I developed this lead based on the idea of an English pub quiz. Which of the following statements is true? And then I make some statements that seem shocking and preposterous, but actually are not. They're all true. And again, I encourage you to pause this if you'd like to read it in full, or visit the website. So again, this is an essay that tells 800 years of history and tries to do it in a very compelling and person-centered way. And you see the images are about people, and I tell the stories of individual rulers, what they're known for. Thank you for your attention there, and again, feel free to read this in full at your own pace. And as you can see, here's links on the side to some of the heritage sites on Anglesey that demonstrate pivotal times in that theme. Anglo-Norman conquest. This was a later addition to the website, and one that actually didn't get illustrated fully the way the other ones did. But this tells the story of probably a more well-known story in this area about the time of the English conquest, or the Anglo-Norman conquest. That was written by Philip Steele. And here's the last one, Industrial Anglesey. And we try to sew together all the various stories at heritage sites around the island related to industrial history. So Amlwch obviously is a very important industrial heritage site on the island. We tell the story of Amluch, which was one of the first to bring about the Industrial Revolution, and then the two bridges that were landmarks built at the end of the Industrial Revolution. Thank you. That's all 6 of the heritage theme essays. Thank you for your attention.